Welcome to the new series, Fixing Pokemon, where we take bad Pokemon and come up with hypothetical ways that we could fix them to make them more viable in your playthroughs, as well as competitive formats like Smogon and VGC. I'm Cal, and let's get to today's Pokemon. One of the most forgettable Water-type Pokemon is Lumineon. Coming from Generation 4, which already brought other Water-type powerhouses like Gastrodon, Palkia, and Empoleon, it was hard for Lumineon to make any sort of impact. But let's break it down and see what makes Lumineon so bad. Lumineon struggles for many reasons. Its stat spread implies that it was intended to be another bulky water type, and it does have more speed than other bulky waters. However, when looking at competition it has in the bulky water category, Pokemon like Milotic outclass it in every stat besides speed. This doesn't mean much considering Lumineon isn't going to be getting much value out of its speed with its mediocre offensive stats. Another big issue is that pure water types often benefit from having few weaknesses and only grass and electric. But Lumineon's HP and defense stats do not give it the ability to function well, as even neutral damage can be devastating for this Pokemon. Other issues include its move pool. Lumineon gets access to water and ice type moves like many other water types. This includes a lot of special coverage like Scald, Surf, Ice Beam, and Blizzard. Lumineon also receives a decent amount of flying and bug type moves in its level up moveset, including Gust, Bounce, Tailwind, and U-Turn. These are all physical or status moves, however, which has poor synergy with Lumineon's special water and ice type moves. While Lumineon does get Waterfall, it lacks any form of ice type physical move, which is typically necessary for water Pokemon to have. Lumineon has poor coverage and would have to run both physical and special moves, taking away the possibility of investing in just one type of attacking stat. You could also try to use its meager defensive stats to be run as a bulkier Pokemon. However, both of these options feel lackluster in both playthroughs, not to mention competitive formats. Now that we've covered its major issues, let's figure out how we can fix Lumineon. One way that Lumineon could be fixed would be to utilize its already above average speed stat. Raising Lumineon's base stat total from 460 to just 500 would help accomplish this a lot. The new stat spread would look like this. Lumineon's original stats imply that it could function as a mixed attacker, as both its attack and special attack stats are 69. If these two stats were boosted to 95, it would be able to dish out a lot more consistent and not unrealistic damage. A speed increase, which was already its highest stat, would also make sense for Lumineon. Because its defensive stats have all been weakened, outspeeding other Pokemon would allow Lumineon to work a lot like other fast yet frail offensive mons like Weavile and Infernape. Speedy Lumineon would also benefit quite a bit by receiving a dual typing, giving it more stab power. It makes sense that Lumineon could be a bug type, as it is based off of Butterfly Fish. However, considering bug type is one of the worst offensive typings, this would not help Lumineon much. Another reasonable option would be to make Lumineon a flying type. It does receive 2 attacking flying type moves in its level moveset, which is only 1 less than how many attacking water type moves it receives. However, I don't think that water and flying is the most accurate representation of this Pokemon. I think that the typing that would best fit Lumineon would be water and fairy. The neon stripes and patterns on Lumineon and Finneon give it a mystical look, and many fairies are presented as butterflies or akin to butterflies. Lastly, the speedy offensive Lumineon should receive some new moves to help it out as well. Fairy-type stab moves aren't obvious here, such as Dazzling Gleam, Draining Kiss, and Moonblast. Other new moves that Lumineon could receive to assist it include Quiver Dance, Hurricane, Air Slash, and Hydro Pump, because, for some reason Lumineon didn't have access to Hydro Pump already. Access to these moves would allow Lumineon to function well in rain teams, with boosted damage on its Hydro Pumps, as well as perfect accuracy Hurricanes. Quiver Dance would allow it to boost and become a threat to whole teams, much like Volcarona used to do. While all these moves imply that Lumineon would more likely be a special attacker, it would still have access to Waterfall, Bounce, and U-Turn. In addition, to help round it out, it could also receive some physical ice-type moves like Ice Shard and Ice Fang, and yes, surprisingly, Butterfly Fish do have teeth. Access to more physical and special moves that make sense for this Pokemon would help it to function as a purely physical or purely special attacker, which would allow EV investment in just one of these two stats. The second way that Lumineon could be fixed, while potentially less flashy, may be more accurate to what the developers wanted it to be. The original stats for Lumineon had higher defenses than offenses. This bulkier Lumineon would also need a stat change though. A new stat spread for bulky Lumineon would look like this. This stat total is also at 500, just like the more offensive option. These stats allow Lumineon to be a slightly more physically defensive Pokemon while still having good special bulk as well. The special attacking stat is also not terrible, allowing it to deal some poking damage. As far as typing, Lumineon would benefit from the Water Fairy typing again here. Having an immunity to dragon types is always a beneficial thing, however this would give Lumineon a new weakness to poison types. Having a third weakness is not a bad thing, especially when it's a type that is not overly used offensively. The last thing that Lumineon would need to be a viable bulky water type would be its access to Toxic that it lost in Generation 8. A lot of Pokemon lost Toxic in their move pools from the transition to Gen 8, and Lumineon would benefit from having it again, especially in a more defensive role. Lumineon could function well as an offensive or defensive Pokemon, it just needs some of its stats buffed and nerfed accordingly. Giving a boost to its base stat total would obviously make it better, however, just an increase of 40 with some reshuffling of its stats would help turn Lumineon into an offensive threat or a tanky nightmare. Thank you all for checking out the video. If you liked it, please be sure to leave a like and a subscribe, and let me know in the comments what Pokemon you'd like to see me fix next.